the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq 100. As you can see, we actually finally get a little bit of a pull back here on the 4-hour chart. We started to see some sellings, but what I will say is you're still breaking out of the previous all-time highs, which are very clear. You're mounted. You're getting a little bit of a retracement. We go to NQ, the Nasdaq specifically. You saw more selling here, and this is more of the overall concern. You are holding your local support and SR level around 20,330. Very important to understand that. You did break back below 20,500. Now, I want to go into exactly why you dipped here on the day. And it has, again, we've talked so much about the same thing so many times. So, yeah, let's jump into that first. Number one, you're getting more of this fear notion from the White House. Again, they're talking about, capping how much exports these chips can have to China and some of these other countries, specifically aimed at NVIDIA and AMD. This is something that we've seen nonstop over the past 2 years. You get breaking news regarding banning chips to China or something along those lines. And guess what happens? NVIDIA gets around those laws. They figure out how to do it. Bada bing, bada boom. But every time the Biden administration does this, you drop down on NVIDIA and it's a buying opportunity. Okay, I've talked about this so much. Very important to understand that. The next part here is you had ASML released a little, I think it was like a leak around their earnings. It was pretty bad. Early earnings released there, and then you kind of dropped pretty nasty. So if I look here, and again, I want to point out Nasdaq is dipping, but the bulk of that dip, in my opinion, stems from right here, SMH. Again, we had the SMH breakout above 256, pushing in almost $6. And then today you drop almost $20 of downside. Really process what's happening there. So a major drop on SMH. ASML, as you can see, had a really big drop as well, which is a pretty big semiconductor as well. So important to understand that. We look at overall the other sectors, and again, XLK had a pullback, but nothing dramatic. Okay, we go look also at the heat map, right? As you look at the heat map here, semiconductors down 4%, right? Semiconductor equipment materials down 14%. But that's really, when we look at tech in the Nasdaq, that's primarily down. We look at technology and information technology, 0.1%, right? You go look at internet connection, 0.02, software, 0.04, basically, right? Nothing's down that heavy, right? Internet retail down about 1%, software application 1%, right? So a bulk of your drop was centered all around semiconductors. Very interesting that we're understanding what's really happening there. So in my opinion, again, this is becoming a pretty decent opportunity if buyers step back in. So on NQ, what are we looking for? We want to see that reclaim of our key level back here around 20,500. Let's make that very, very clear. Back above this level right here. Let me get rid of this level just so it's really clear. I want to make sure no one's confused. Back above this range, 20,510, 20,505. Very bullish. Okay. Your SR level, you're still holding it. You still look good in the overnight session. ES, you didn't see much of selling on ES until the end of the day, but it's still, you're breaking and holding above previous highs here. Impressive. Again, what I'm really watching there as well. The Dow, you started seeing some selling near the end of the day, but you're still sitting above previous highs. This can become a big problem if we get back below 43,000 here, which you are in the after hours, but we'll see how we react going into the morning. So very interesting, very important that we're watching this action and how we react to this moving forward. Okay, so very important to see that right there. Now, again, going over some of these names and overall stocks, I think you'll see some selling pressure there. But again, what I'm really waiting for, especially as we go into Thursday with TSM earnings and Netflix earnings. Okay. Also, if you're not following on Twitter, I recommend doing so you get updates to all the charts, all the stocks we're looking at. It's all free. I'm posting there all throughout the day, throughout the week, nonstop. So make sure you tap in. It's absolutely free. The link is down below. Again, let's jump into some more of these equities and stocks that we're looking at. So number one, we'll start with some of the names we've been looking heavily at. Something like Microsoft. So Microsoft was one of my only trades here on the day. I had some of the downside here. You did not come all the way into target number one down here, basically 415. Ended up getting my trail stopped out, but again, still made good money, rejecting off the 200 daily moving average, which we talked about here. And then at the end of the day, you get back above that. And this is the other point here. You're seeing selling pressure on the S&P, but you're still seeing some of these names bounce and find buyers throughout the day. Again, it points to the thesis that this is still pretty strong overall. And until we make some lower lows, until we break back below previous all-time highs, I don't know how we panic here. You go into Apple, posted this on Twitter as well. As you get above 235, you push right into 237. Really clean push there. pulling back into 232, 233 and bouncing here at the end of the day. Apple looks really good, back above 235. I think he pushed back into all-time highs. NVIDIA, semiconductors, you're holding, in my opinion, where you need to. Again, zoom out, go to the daily charts, and I think you get a lot of your answers. Yeah, you pulled back off that 136 level, but you're still above your previous high established in August. If you stay above 131, 132, I'm very bullish and looking for buyers to push us back up into our range. Names like AMD are more of the concerning areas here. Like I posted, I wasn't going long just at the 200 SMA. I wanted to see a break and retest of 168.6. You never got that. We got back below 200 and you sold off. Again, that is concerning there, right? AVGO, a little bit weak here as well, under 177. You wanted to hold that level. Weakness is there. So what I will say is there are some semiconductors out there that are showing a lot of weakness that look way worse than NVIDIA and some of these other names, right? So I'm waiting for those names to reclaim, like AVGO back above 177, but that can happen literally in an instant, especially with the sell pressure we saw today. Going into ARM, again, this was one of our better plays. We talked about 164. You hit that, I mean, obviously here. You pushed into it yesterday, I believe, and then you kind of rejected back down to 149, 150, sitting back on our support, looking for buyers to hold us up here. If you get back below this, you can start pulling back into the low 140s. So making sure we're watching those names as well. Stronger names I've been paying attention to as well. Google, again, very strong, riding the 200 SMA. Despite the selling on the day, you actually pushed up in the first hour of trading, but still held around 165. Again, above 168.6, it's a very strong long, in my opinion. I'd be watching that. You look at something like MicroStrategy, and it's funny that people like to get like very animated about some of these stocks, and then whenever they're actually opportunities, we panic and freak out and run away. Again, MicroStrategy back below previous highs here. Again, I'm looking for the pushback down to 182 potentially, but ultimately, if you get back above these highs and reclaim 200, it's a long, in my opinion. So again, if you start to break, retest, and get a pushback off that 200, off the previous all-time high, very strong there. Again, really good tracker of what Bitcoin is doing. It is pulling back with the market, but Bitcoin, I want to highlight right now, is at the top of that little downtrend right now, trying to break out. You are seeing buyers step in. Ethereum getting some love as well, bouncing off your overall support, the 200 SMA on the day, on the weekly. So again, very strong there also. Now again, broad market, you saw some selling, but I'll continue to say this. A lot of these names still look good. Meta, you held your level overall. You got below 583, but ended up holding it for the remainder of the day. Still impressive, can still bounce. Again, it's all these same supports we continue to talk about. The only names that really saw some aggressive sell side, in my opinion, again, are semiconductors. Nothing else really pulled back that aggressively. You're still above all the resistances we were talking about and previously took us so long to get above. And then not to mention, now we have earnings coming in as well. So if Netflix, they already went over subscriber growth and things there, those earnings continue to print. I have to assume buyers step back into the market, especially going back over some of these other names that I think are pulled back, like Microsoft and Google going ahead of their earnings, which I believe have room to run. So again, still excited there. Micron, I'll continue to say this too. Once you get above like 212, 112 to 111, give your 100-day moving average somewhere right here. It's a very big long. Until then, be very patient. Making higher lows, very strong name, but definitely one of the names I'm watching here as well. Those are my favorite stocks, what I'm watching going into this week, going into tomorrow as well. Discord link should be down below. If it's not, DM me on Twitter, message on Twitter for any information regarding if there's spots. Again, our indicators as well, you can check them out. The link is down below. Again, I use these for day trading every single day. You'll see them if you watch us live on TikTok, anything along those lines. So again, we're using those every day. So make sure you tap in, use code OD40 for 40% off. See you next time. Have a good one, traders.